Pope Francis suddenly passed away, but US Vice President Vance got into trouble because of this. Why did things develop to this point? Next, I will explain to you the causes and consequences of this matter, as well as the subsequent impact. On the morning of April 21st local time, Pope Francis, the 266th Pope of the Roman Catholic Church, passed away at his residence in Santa Marta, Vatican City, at the age of 88 due to heart failure caused by a stroke. This news has caused a huge shock around the world, and countless people have fallen into deep grief. Starting from 2023, the health issues of Pope Francis are quite concerning. He has been hospitalized multiple times for respiratory infections, bilateral pneumonia, and other illnesses. In February 2025, he underwent 5 weeks of treatment for severe pneumonia, during which he was critically ill due to asthma respiratory crisis and mild kidney failure. Although he announced a 2-month recovery after being discharged in March, as the spiritual leader of 1.4 billion Catholics worldwide, he remained steadfast in his post and fulfilled his duties, including attending Easter celebrations and meeting with Vice President Vance on April 20th. The meeting on April 20th became the focus of public attention. On that day, Pope Francis had a brief exchange with visiting US Vice President Vance while sitting in a wheelchair. Vance expressed his Easter wishes to the Pope, and the Pope, through his assistants, gifted Easter eggs to Vance's 3 children. After the meeting, Vance posted photos on social media and wrote, "It's a great honor to meet the Pope," expressing his joy beyond words. However, surprisingly, the Pope passed away less than 24 hours after meeting with Vance. This coincidence instantly sparked widespread questioning and discussion, with many people asking the same question to Vance on social media: "What did you do?" Some people were dissatisfied with Vance and even created and spread PS images with satirical content, accusing Vance of causing the death of the Pope. Faced with these doubts, Vance quickly responded on social media, saying, "I just learned about the death of Pope Francis. I was happy to see him yesterday, even though he was obviously very ill." He tried to convey the meaning of "the death of the Pope has nothing to do with me" in this tactful way, but his response only intensified the controversy. Under the post posted by Vance, the question, "What did you do?" received over 70,000 likes and support, while other comments almost exclusively criticized Vance. A high-like comment reads, "In the last few days of his life, the Pope devoted all his meager energy to contacting you and desperately saving your soul from the poison of false prophets and swindlers. This is truly heartbreaking. He wasted these precious times on a pretentious believer who yearns to take photos but secretly sneers at the Pope. He just wants you to treat immigrants with basic human dignity." From this, it can be seen that many people are full of speculation and dissatisfaction about the Pope's death after Vance met with the Pope. Pope Francis was born in Argentina and was the first Pope from the global South. Many of his ideas were in stark contrast to the conservative policies of the US government. He has repeatedly publicly criticized the US policy of expelling immigrants and urged Catholics to reject anti-immigrant narratives, stating that fear is never a good solution. In March 2025, Vance spoke in Congress, stating that illegal immigration leads to rising housing prices and advocating for restrictions on immigration, which directly conflicts with Francis' advocacy of inclusivity for vulnerable groups. So, behind the meeting between Pope Francis and US Vice President Vance on April 20th, there is actually a complex political game hidden. Although Pope Francis does not agree with some of America's ideas, American politicians still highly respect him and take pride in meeting the Pope. In 2017, President Trump and his wife visited the Vatican with great humility, and Vance's trip to the Vatican was also carefully prepared. "I just didn't expect the Pope to pass away less than 24 hours after meeting him." This has sparked a huge controversy. The death of Pope Francis has attracted widespread attention and condolences from global politicians and religious leaders. Argentine President Millet announced 3 days of national mourning, while Italian Prime Minister Meloni stated that he will continue the direction guided by the Pope. UN Secretary-General Guterres issued a statement saying, "Pope Francis promoted peace and inclusiveness with courage and wisdom, and his passing is a loss for the world." The death of Pope Francis is already a fact. So who will be his successor next? Who will be the new Pope? This is another focal point of concern for all parties involved. According to Catholic tradition, elections will be held within the College of Cardinals, and candidates must obtain a 2/3 majority vote. At present, there is a balance of power between reformists and conservatives, with possible candidates including Italian Cardinal Pietro Parolin, who advocates moderate reforms, Brazilian Cardinal Odilon Scherzrell, and Philippine Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, known as the Asian Francis. During Pope Francis' tenure, 80% of the current cardinals were appointed, with reformists having a certain advantage, but conservatives may still influence the election through regional balance strategies. Analysis suggests that the selection of a new pope will determine the position of the Catholic Church on issues such as immigration, climate change, and LGBTQ+ rights, and will also affect the relationship between the Vatican and countries such as China and Russia. After the death of the Pope, the American political arena acted quickly. President Trump ordered the flags of the United States to be flown at half-mast in mourning and announced that he would personally attend the funeral with his wife Melania. At the same time, Vance immediately set off to visit India after writing a memorial discussing trade and geopolitical issues with Prime Minister Modi, which was seen as a strategy to shift public opinion pressure. Vance's trip to India aimed to promote the US-India trade agreement, but after he arrived in India, the Indian Farmers Association has called for protests because they are concerned that the US-India trade agreement may harm the interests of local farmers. For Vice President Vance of the United States, this papal affair may become a turning point in his political career. If public opinion continues to associate the death of the Pope with the immigration policy controversy, it may weaken its support rate. But if Vance can achieve results in his visit to India this time, it may help him regain some of his reputation. In addition, the death of Pope Francis has also sparked discussions about the health risks of politicians and religious leaders. Before the death of Queen Elizabeth II in 2022, she received truss. Many people believe that the resignation of former British Prime Minister Johnson and the appointment of new Prime Minister Truss may aggravate the physical and mental burden of the Queen and lead to her poor health. Similar cases illustrate that the participation of elderly leaders in high-intensity state activities may have irreversible effects on their health. The passing of Pope Francis marked the end of an era. He reshaped the image of the Pope with humility, but struggled to balance conservative forces with reform demands. Its legacy will continue to influence the Catholic Church and global affairs, while the election of a new pope and the political fate of Vance will become important windows for observing the interaction between religion and politics. In this era full of uncertainty, Francis' concept of coexistence may still be a valuable inspiration for us to deal with differences and conflicts. The controversy surrounding Vance will eventually be covered by new news, and the results of the papal election will be settled. However, the propositions put forward by Pope Francis, how to maintain the warmth of faith in a diverse world, how to bend power over the weak, will continue to question our era and the future. He once said during the inaugural Mass, "The Church is Noah's Ark, carrying all wounded souls, searching for rainbows in storms." Perhaps this is the spiritual coordinate that our era needs the most. This concludes the topic for this issue. Welcome to subscribe and share my channel, where I will share in-depth perspectives every day. See you next time.